we feel that could outperform the markets is Jubilant Foods. The stock has taken out its prior September as well as November resistances, which were closer to 708, 710 levels. It is sustaining well above that today. And the daily, weekly, as well as the monthly time frame, the chart is looking quite strong here. So this could head up to 745, 750 in the next couple of sessions. And on the downside, 705 zones can act as a strong stop loss levels.
Okay, all right, so they've got that. Thank you very much for the calls. Let's also revisit the big corporate news of the morning, corporate and market news, really. The stake purchase by UltraTech Cement in Star Cement. UltraTech, remember, this morning bought almost 8.7% of the company's equity. We don't know what the intent is, from here on, but it definitely excited the stock. Star is up about 3%. It was up about 6% when we opened. Now it's, become a little more measured. And UltraTech is also positive. Sudarshan's here with more details.
So if I can say so, part of the deal of UltraTech Cement and Star Cement is done. In today's disclosure, UltraTech Cement has announced that it's acquiring 3.7% stake in Star Cement at a price of rupees 235 per share, and it comes to around rupees 851 crore. And the deal was done in the block deal window in which Star Cement has seen a change of hands for 3.7% equity. Now the question is, from which promoter UltraTech Cement has bought. Basically, company has not disclosed as of now, but what we understand that the UltraTech Cement has acquired from one of the promoters, and there are two major promoters. One is Bhajanka Group and second is Chamaria Group. So these are the two major groups which hold majority part of the stake in Star Cement. Now coming to the Star Cement. So it's a major player in Northeast market, and currently cement capacity is of 7.7 million ton per annum and clinker capacity is 6.1 million ton per annum. Now company has a target to increase the cement capacity by FY27 to 12 million ton. If we talk about as of FY23, it had a cement capacity of 5.67 million ton. By FY25, it's planning to increase to 7.67, and by FY26, it's likely to increase to 9.67. But finally, by FY27, company is expecting the capacity to increase to 12 million ton. Now, the next question is on which capacity deal is likely to have been done. So now, if the deal is done at 7.67, then it comes to $152 per ton. And if the deal is likely to have been done at 9.67 million ton, then it comes to $120 per ton. Now, the final question is, for the remaining part of the stake, by if UltraTech Cement plans to, will it go the India Cement way? Because if you remember, in the India Cement deal, in the first tranche, UltraTech Cement had acquired stake from Damani at a lower price, but later on it had to pay the higher price when it had acquired the stake from N. Srinivasan. So that we'll have to see going forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Sudarshan. We can't ask for more. That's the most comprehensive understanding of what's happening in the cement space and what will this new deal, this new consolidation in the cement space take the total capacities to. Thank you for that. That completes the first hour of trading, and the rupee has crossed 85.40. It's now 85.42. But the markets are at the moment in a cheerful mode. 0.75 up, so it's 23,927, closing in on 24,000. So markets clearly in a cheerful note. With that, we'll conclude our stock market presentation in Bazaar and turn to the big news of the day, the passing away of former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Joining us now is someone who has worked closely with Dr. Manmohan Singh step by step in those momentous reforms of 1991. Joining us now is Dr. C. Rangarajan, former Reserve Bank of India governor, and of course, chairman of the 12th Finance Commission, chairman of the PMEAC. He has worn so many hats. Dr. Rangarajan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. You as governor and Dr. Manmohan Singh as finance minister led India through its most brilliant period. Can you just relive some of those moments and how those very difficult decisions of liberating the foreign exchange market and the government securities market were taken in your time?
Dr. Manmohan Singh, first as finance minister and later as prime minister, brought about some his economies. These are in fact revolutionary changes. And he had both of them in abundant measure. Because it is not enough to have vision alone. It must be possible to implement them. And he did it with great ability. And he carried all the other people who worked with him at that time. I would say the most important event in 1990-91 was to take care of first the problem that we faced in the balance of payments area and bring about some stability before structural reforms could be introduced. And I would say the most important thing in this area was that it was not enough to solve the immediate problem. What he thought was that as we solve the immediate problem, we must also undertake reforms which will have the effect that such crises will not happen. Also, it is interesting to see that how the balance of payments problem was solved and how the reforms in that particular area were introduced. Earlier on, when we had a balance of payments crisis, we will go on to tighten the imports more and more, and that is the way we try to solve. But in this situation in 1990-91, what we did essentially was, while we did take strong monetary policy actions as well as other fiscal actions, we also thought in terms of introducing in the international bank. Why is it so revolutionary? Why are the reforms introduced by Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, along with others like me? Yes, really, that there are three important changes that happened. I will not go in great detail. He dismantled the system of licenses, permits, and controls that dominated the economy.
Yes.
He removed the barriers to entry and growth.
Yes.
Second, he reoriented the
Yeah, Dr. Rangarajan, we are not able to hear you, sir. I think that there's a network issue. We will try and redial the line. We are not able to get much of what you are saying. We will try and redial that line. In the meanwhile, I think we have a few more guests joining us. Perhaps we should take a quick break and continue our coverage. Perhaps we'll be luckier with the lines after the break. Welcome back. We have been speaking with former Reserve Bank of India Governor Dr. Rangarajan, who worked very closely with Dr. Manmohan Singh as Finance Minister in ushering those momentous reforms of 1991. Dr. Rangarajan, my apologies, the technology is simply not helping today. But let's get you on the phone line and try our luck. Can you tell us some intimate moments, something personal that you shared with Dr. Manmohan Singh? Was he a hard taskmaster as a finance minister, or was he actually, a friend in need?
Well, I think that at the time of the crisis.
Oh, I think we're not lucky. There is some kind of an echo. We'll do one thing. We'll try and dial Dr. Rangarajan a little later, maybe after 5-10 minutes. The lines are simply not helping. But we have two other people who know Dr. Rangarajan very closely. Joining us now is Dr. Sudhir Mundell and Ratin Roy. Of course, both of them involved with former finance commissions, but even otherwise very close to Dr. Manmohan Singh. Ratin Roy, of course, was associated with the 13th Finance Commission and was also in the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Ratin, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Legacies, memories, share them with us, please.
Well, I suppose all memories are made looking at the present. And I think Dr. Singh's abiding legacy was his absolutely superb crisis management and his ability to get a wide variety of people, domain experts, global leaders, multilateral experts, bureaucrats, to actually do the work he wanted them to do without an inferiority complex. He was lucky in that sense, quite the opposite of the present Prime Minister, that he was a Prime Minister who had no political base and for various reasons became Prime Minister without that base. People criticized him for that, but if you look at it analytically, that can be quite enabling in many ways. And I think he took full advantage of that enablement, first as a finance minister with no political base in 1991, and second, later on as Prime Minister. In the second role, I would say, he did a lot for foreign policy, as much as he did, again, in terms of crisis management, both in 2008 and in 2012. So his legacy would be one, I think, of a very capable crisis manager and somebody who demonstrated that good crisis management leads to good economic results in India. The economy is resilient if you don't mess with it, like we did in 2016. And what Manmohan Singh's legacy was to skillfully not intervene in the economy when required and to skillfully intervene in the economy when required, and do so effectively and to carry the room with him both nationally and internationally. I think that's his abiding legacy. If you brief word on his pre-prime ministerial career, he engineered one very significant reform in monetary policy, which people often forget, which is he appointed the Sukumar Chakrabarti Committee on to look at the working of the monetary and financial system back in the 80s. That was his responsibility as Governor Reserve Bank. And that report was absolutely epochal in the optimal functioning and improved functioning of the Reserve Bank and monetary and credit policy more generally, right from when Dr. Rangarajan was governor till a few years ago.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Ratin. Actually, we didn't forget that. Early morning at 7:30, we started by saying that as governor, his first task was to invite Dr. Sukumar Chakrabarti to lay down the guiding principles, the fundamentals of banking regulation, and CRR, SLR, as we now know it, was put in by Dr. Chakrabarti. Dr. Sudhir Mundell is also waiting with us. You knew him personally, Dr. Mundell. I think you all had differences of opinion on several things, but tell us both personal and professional experiences with him.
Well, I first got to know him. He was actually a professor at the Delhi School of Economics, and he would teach us international trade. By the way, that was also the subject of his thesis in Oxford University, and that was one of the earliest pieces of work when export pessimism in India was being criticized. So some of the key thoughts of trade reform that he was to engage in later were already there in his PhD thesis that he had done. Anyway, moving forward, he taught us, but he didn't teach us for very long, because soon after that, he started his long career in government. He was appointed as economic advisor in the Ministry of Commerce, and within a year, he then moved to become chief economic advisor in the finance ministry and so on, as you have been saying. Also, as you hinted, there was a time, by then I moved on from the finance ministry, and I was writing as a private individual. And I used to write about the need for having a more human face on the reforms. I was all for the reforms, but I thought that it could have been done with greater sensitivity to how it would impact the poorer people. And at that time, I do remember not so much him, but people around him. As you know, important people always get surrounded by sycophants of a certain kind. And I was getting a lot of flack from them. And I remember writing to him, saying that basically, people not being fair to me. And he wrote back a very kind letter to me, which I have preserved to this day, because this was something very precious to me. I did not then interact too much with him since I was outside the government. Occasionally we would meet. I later got to know his daughter Upinder quite well. Upinder and Vijay, his son-in-law, were good friends of mine. And mostly in his last few years, I would hear about him through them. And he had not been keeping very well, as you know. I also am very pleased to know that apart from the economic reform which Dr. Rangarajan has talked to in some detail, and Ratin after that, you have actually talked about his role as RBI governor, because in each of these, as finance minister, as RBI governor, and as prime minister, he played a very important role in different dimensions. His big moment as prime minister was, of course, the nuclear agreement with the US government, which put India in a whole different place. And that has not been recognized as much as his role in the economic reforms of 1991.
Yep. No, I take your point, sir. There are many aspects and many sides to the contribution he has made. A long public career, and as Raghuram Rajan said, the economist's economist. So a great deal was accomplished in those 35 years. We have a string of dignitaries waiting. Thank you very much, Dr. Mundell and Ratin Roy, for sharing both your perspective and your personal interactions with the great man. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, we have to get back to the stock markets and the stalwarts who exactly know what Dr. Singh's contribution mean to India's capital markets. Joining us now is one such stalwart, Manish Choksi, Director, Enam Holdings, and of course, more importantly, a veteran watcher of the India scene. Manish, if you have to pay your tribute, your legacy of how you understand Dr. Singh, what would that be? Yeah, Manish, you can hear me?
Cracking.
Manish, you're able to hear me? No. Hello? I think we're going to do that yet again, trying to connect. Today has not been a great day in terms of telephone connectivity, but we'll bide our time. Let me perhaps just quickly go through what's happening in the markets while we are reconnecting with Manish Choksi. The markets really up and away. We haven't had such a good day in some time now. Markets look likely that they're holding on. The first hour's gains have been held on, and what's most important is at the end of 1 hour, the markets are at the highest point of the day, which means whatever selling, profit taking had to come appears to have come. I could be speaking too soon. We could still see some reversals later on in the day, but it does look like at the moment the markets are having a very good day. The important takeaways that we have got from our guests on Dr. Manmohan Singh himself, unfortunately we didn't get to Dr. Rangarajan very well, but he has reform contributions even before he became the Reserve Bank of India governor, and definitely from the Reserve Bank onwards laid the building blocks of banking and economic policy through the Sukumar Chakraborty report, and then, of course, the great 1991 reforms. Manish, I believe we are connected and you can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, please go ahead. How would you remember Dr. Manmohan Singh and his contribution to capital markets?
Well, Dr. Singh, of course, had been RBI governor, and I was a young student who had just come back post my MBA from London. So this whole spirit of India opening up and being unleashed was so new and so unknown to people of what would actually happen. And even though I was a young chap, people just assume because you've been to London and he's from London and so on and so forth. We quickly coined this term of what we call the era of brains and brands is here. And as India liberalized and opened up to the world, we all are actually beneficiaries of that creation, which Prime Minister Rao and Finance Minister Manmohan Singh then unleashed. And you're seeing the big benefits of that coming to us, 35 years later, as we said today. And his career to me actually bookends my own career in a way, that I started as a young student benefiting from him. And his other bookend is when he became Prime Minister and did the landmark nuclear deal with US and formed the rapprochement, which we finally